They tried to evict me from my own ranch because I locked my gate. An actual notice to vacate showed up in my mailbox with a 30-day deadline circled in red, like I was some renter behind on payments. The gate sat on my land, set back inside my boundary line, nowhere near their subdivision. But they acted so confident. Like if they printed it on fancy letterhead, reality would roll over and let them take what they wanted. My name's Caleb Harlan. I'm 39, Army vet, and I bought 15 acres outside Red Willow, New Mexico, because I needed quiet more than I needed a view. High desert, wide sky, a small corral, a garden, a handful of goats and chickens. Peace. Then a developer carved a neat little neighborhood into the scrubland a mile away and slapped up an HOA sign that looked like a hotel lobby. I didn't care. They were over there. I was over here. Or so I thought. I installed my gate after some kids used my driveway as a late-night racetrack. So I put in a basic automatic gate with a keypad. Not a fortress, just a gate. The fire department had the code. The sheriff's office had the code. The first night I heard that gate click shut, I slept like a human being. 3 days later, a white SUV rolled up, stopped at my gate, and leaned on the horn like I'd insulted her personally. I walked down with my dog Ranger, and the driver lowered her window just enough to let her perfume escape. Perfect hair, coral blazer, clipboard, smile that never reached her eyes. "Caleb Harlan?" she asked. "That's me. I'm Marlene Fitch," she said, chair of the Juniper Crest Community Board. She nodded at my keypad. "This is going to be a problem." I laughed, because I thought we were both in on the joke. "Ma'am, this is on my property." Her smile tightened. "We've received concerns about emergency access and community standards. You'll need to remove it." "Emergency services have the code," I said, "and your HOA doesn't cover my land." Marlene leaned forward, voice dropping into that syrupy threat. "The board can pursue enforcement. Legal action. Liens. Eviction proceedings." The word eviction hit like a punch. "You can't evict me from land I own." She looked me up and down and said, "Men like you always think the rules don't apply. Men like you. Not neighbors. Not homeowners. A category." I took a breath. "Marlene, you're outside your jurisdiction." She smiled again, cold this time. "We'll see." Then she reversed too fast, dusting my mailbox like punctuation. As she drove off, I caught a glimpse of a guy in the passenger seat filming, baseball cap backwards, smirking. Her son. That evening, a thick envelope appeared in my mailbox. Fancy letterhead. A notice to vacate stamped in red. It claimed my ranch was inside Juniper Crest's community influence zone. Influence zone, like their beige paint radiated authority. I sat at my kitchen table with the letter in my hands and felt that tight, alert buzz I came out here to escape. The next morning, I went to the county clerk and pulled boundary maps. The clerk, Ms. Duran, took one look and said, "Honey, you're not in their HOA. Not even close." She tapped the line where Juniper Crest ended and my land began. "They don't touch you. So how are they sending this?" I asked. She gave me a look. Because most folks see a lawyer letter and panic. They don't check. I went home and installed cameras, then started a binder, letters, dates, screenshots, everything. I mailed Marlene a certified response with the county map attached. "You have no authority here. Stop contacting me." 2 days later, her son parked his dented sedan sideways across my gate, blocking my driveway like he owned the road. When I told him to move, he smirked. "Call the sheriff. My mom knows people." So I called. Deputy Ellis arrived, watched my footage, then told him, "Move the car now, or I tow it and you ride with me." The kid peeled out yelling, "This isn't over." And later I found the clip he accidentally posted. Him trying to climb my gate earlier, touching my harmless hot wire, yelping, and falling into cactus. I shouldn't have laughed, but I did. Then Marlene got petty. Complaints about livestock odor. Letters about my barn being a visual nuisance. Nails tossed near my cattle guard. A midnight stomp through my garden beds. It wasn't about winning in court. It was about exhausting me. And yeah, it worked. I'd sit on my porch at dusk, hearing phantom tires on gravel, feeling my body slide back into that hyper-alert mode. One morning I woke up to a neon violation tagged zip-tied to my gate, listing fines I'd never agreed to pay and citing Juniper Crest Architectural Harmony. Architectural Harmony, on a ranch. I drove into town with that tag on my passenger seat, knuckles white on the wheel, realizing this wasn't just annoying. It was someone testing whether fear would make me move. That afternoon, Marlene showed up again. Same white SUV. Same clipboard. She didn't honk this time. She just parked half in my ditch and waited like I owed her an audience. "You've ignored the board," she said. I responded, I said, "with county maps." She gave a little laugh. "You're making this hard. Mesa Horizon is willing to offer you a generous buyout. Fresh start." There it was. The real reason, finally said out loud. I stared at her. So this was never about emergency access. Marlene's smile went thin. "It's about what's best for the community. It's about money," I said. Her eyes hardened. "I can make your life very loud, Mr. Harlan." I watched her drive off, and I made the decision right there in the road. I wasn't leaving. Not because I wanted a war, but because if I let her take mine with threats and paperwork, she'd take the next person too. My real break came from my neighbor, Lila Chun. She showed up with a folder and said, "This gate thing is a cover." Inside were emails between Marlene and a development company called Mesa Horizon. They weren't talking about emergency access. They were talking about my land. Pressure strategy. Board cooperation incentive. Translation: scare the rural owners into selling cheap. The gate wasn't the problem. The gate was the excuse. Marlene's next move was her dumbest. She sent the county a complaint claiming I was dumping waste and running unsafe livestock operations. 2 inspectors showed up with a trainee, and the trainee was her son, wearing a fake badge like a Halloween costume. The inspection went normal until we reached my feed shed. That's where the smell hit. Fresh rot and sewage. Behind the shed, someone had dumped a slop pile overnight. Then the son's phone buzzed. He fumbled it, dropped it, and the screen lit up with a text. "Make sure they find the dump. Don't screw this up." From Mom. One inspector picked up the phone, read it, and said, flat and disgusted, "You planted this." The sheriff got called. My cameras showed the son's car pulling in at 2:11 a.m., hauling buckets behind the feed shed, then slipping and landing in his own mess. The inspectors didn't even finish the health paperwork. They called their supervisor, then the sheriff, and suddenly my feed shed was treated like a crime scene instead of a violation. The son tried to talk his way out of it, saying his mom told him it was just a pressure tactic. Like that made it better. One deputy looked at him and said, "So you committed a crime because your mom told you to?" And the kid actually nodded like that was a reasonable explanation. That night I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my binder, thinking about how close I'd been to just giving up to avoid the stress. If I'd sold, none of this would have come out. Marlene would have gotten her commission. Mesa Horizon would have slapped condos where my goats used to graze, and everyone would have called it progress. I went outside, leaned on my fence, and listened to the desert. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something steady. Not calm. Determination. Like I finally had my footing back. Detective Raul Ortega came to my house the next day. He flipped through my binder and got to Marlene's eviction notice. He read the bylaw she cited, then his mouth twitched. "You know what she used as grounds?" he asked. "What?" He held up the paper. "Section 9.2. Then he started laughing, bigger and bigger, until he had to set it down. "Section 9.2 is pool wristbands," he said. "She tried to evict you from a ranch using wristband rules." I laughed too, but mine came out rough. Because it finally broke the spell. These people weren't officials. They were con artists playing dress up. Ortega leaned in. "This isn't just harassment. It's fraud, extortion, impersonation. And that developer angle? We've been watching Mesa Horizon. Your gate made them sloppy." Ortega also explained something that made my stomach drop. Marlene wasn't just bluffing with paperwork. She'd filed a fake community association registration at the state level, almost identical to the real HOA name. So her letters looked official to anyone who didn't know the difference. He said they'd already found checks from rural owners who'd paid dues out of fear. "She's been running a shakedown," he said, tapping my binder. "And you're the first one who brought receipts." When the warrants hit, Marlene's tone changed fast. She started calling from blocked numbers, leaving voicemails that tried to sound sweet. "Caleb, let's be adults," she'd say, like she hadn't threatened my livelihood. Then the sweetness would crack and she'd hiss, "You're making a mistake," before hanging up. I saved every voicemail. Every one. That week, warrants went out. Records got seized. And Marlene, because she couldn't help herself, chose the worst time to push harder. She showed up at Lila's place with papers, trying to pressure her into signing an easement she didn't know. Ortega's team met her there. When we pulled up, Marlene was in Lila's driveway yelling about order, waving forms like flags. Ortega stepped out and said, "Ma'am, put the papers down." Marlene took one dramatic step back, tripped over an irrigation hose, and fell into Lila's pen of rescued geese. Hissing, flapping chaos. Feathers everywhere. Marlene screaming like the geese had a warrant too. Ortega read her rights while she shouted, "I'm the board chair." He replied, "Not here you don't." Then he glanced at her stack and said, "Also, these are blank." Her son, caught on body cam, blurted, "We're just trying to get the land for the project," and that was the mask slipping in real time. Within a month, Juniper Crest's board collapsed. Mesa Horizon went quiet, and my gate stayed exactly where it was. Locked every night, not out of spite, out of principle. Here's what keeps this from being a clean ending. 6 months later, I got an envelope with no return address. Inside was an offer to buy my ranch for a number so high I had to read it twice. No company name, just a contact number in one sentence. This is the clean way. Clean way, like there's always a dirty way waiting if you say no. I haven't called the number. I locked my gate, walked my fence line with Ranger, and reminded myself why I came out here. To live free, to heal, to stop letting someone else's greed decide how my day goes. But I won't pretend I don't wonder who sent it, and whether Marlene was just the first face of a bigger machine. So now it's your turn. Was I right to dig in and fight, or should I have taken the hint and cashed out? If you've ever dealt with HOA overreach, small-town connections, or someone trying to weaponize paperwork to scare you off what you own, drop your story below. I read the comments, and I want to know, where do you draw the line between community standards and straight-up bullying? And if you want part 2 when I finally decide what to do with that clean way offer, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think really happens next.